Okay, so welcome to the end user training session. Today's training session, as I mentioned, will cover the end user perspective with basically managing the solicitations and running reports in the tool. We're going to take a look at your actual production account right now so you can see the actual instance of it. When you're going to access BidSync, you will be coming to the URL up above, which is www.bidsync.com. That will take you to the login screen where you'll log in with your username and password. Once you log in, you're directed to the home page of the website. Now, this home page is specific to your user. So if your user has solicitations that are out and you're receiving questions from vendors, a direct link will post here in this section to the left of questions that are waiting to be answered. Also here, if you're involved in any workflows, for instance, Claudia and Fran, their workflows would show up here if they need to approve any workflows in the system. If you have solicitations that are closing within a 24-hour period, they'll also display on this page. You do need to check the box to view only, or you could have access to see the solicitations that are out within your organization. The home tab, again, is just basically kind of like a home or a dashboard that's specific to your user. All of the things that I mentioned with questions and answers being asked on your solicitations, your bids closing, you do receive email notifications for those things, but the home page also is where you can kind of see those announcements as well. If your organization has posted a public message for you to be aware of, that will also be posted here under the City of Tallahassee News section. The search tab in the tool is known as the Spec Library. This gives you access to all solicitations that are posted on the BidSync website publicly. So any public solicitation posted by any agency, not just City of Tallahassee, you could view here. You can come in and search by a bid number, a title and description. You can even narrow it down to a specific region. You can do different miles within a zip code. You can search by a commodity code. You can search by created by you or contract for you or contact for you, and then different time periods, so current bids versus historical bids. I just ran a search for Florida, and to the right, it pulls up all the solicitations that are out in the location of Florida right now by agencies using the BidSync system. Now, the reason why this is helpful is because if you are creating a solicitation and you want to see if another agency has done something similar, you can come in and do a keyword search for that. It will pull up the solicitation, and you're able to actually select the solicitation and see the bid details. So you can see how they've created it. You could download a bid packet for viewing, but this is an actual live solicitation on our website right now. You could see their bid documents that they've attached to the solicitation. So you have access to all that great data that, in this case, Sarasota County has posted publicly for vendors to participate in. If you decide that this solicitation is something similar to what you're looking for and you want to use some of the information, you can go ahead and use the copy feature here, which copies this solicitation over into the bid creation template, which you'll see in just a moment. You also have the ability to search through historical bids. The use case scenario for that is the kind of same concept. If you're looking to purchase products or services and you're wanting to see what another agency, if another agency has done something similar, you can come here and search through the past bids, and then you have access, if available, the bid tabulation. So you can actually come in and see which vendors participated. If the agency made the price public, you'd be able to see the line items and the pricing that the vendors came in at for those line items. So here's our first vendor. Here's the 3 line items, and here's how that vendor priced. Here's the next vendor. If you open that up, then you see, again, the 3 line items and the pricing for that vendor. So in this case, we're able to see a tabulation because the agency has made it public for anybody to view. So vendors or agencies can view it. Just go back to where we were at. So that was underneath the tab setting. You also have the ability on historical bids or past bids to copy them as well. We can see that this solicitation hasn't been awarded, but if it had, then the vendor would have a star next to their name indicating that they were awarded the solicitation. So there's a lot of useful information under this search tab. You also have the ability to search from here contracts that other agencies are posting. And once City of Tallahassee starts using the contract management tool, their contracts will also be posted here, any contract that has been made public. But you could search here, you can click on the contracts tab and have access to any public contract that's been made available. In this case, this is for the City of Claremont. So we could come in and see their contract detail if we needed to, with any contract documents that have been made public.
Shannon, let me interrupt for just a second.
Yeah.
For us at the table, OwnBase is still our repository of record. You know, we will be able to use this contracts function, and this will be great for public records requests and that type of thing. But OwnBase is still our official one. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome. Okay, so we talked about the Home tab and the Search tab just being a search repository system to search through current or past bids that have been made public in the system and to search for contracts within the system. Is there any questions on these two features before we actually move into the bulk of the training, which is the bid creation part?
I have one question.
Yes.
Underneath the bid that you show for paddle boats,
Mm-hmm.
have RFQ, what are those two symbols to the right of that?
Yeah, good question. So RFQ indicates the bid type, which is request for quote. This icon indicates that this agency is contracted to do business with BidSync, and therefore there's no fee associated to participate in it. And the A indicates that while the solicitation was live, the agency released an addendum.
Okay.
You can also click on any of the icons in the system, and it will bring up a glossary to walk you through what each of those icons mean.
Okay.
And there's a whole lot of different icons in the system, but any icon that you click on will do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
This is good information for the vendor to see, because they can tell right off if a solicitation they're interested in has an amendment or a change. So it kind of helps give the guideline to the vendors. They also get notifications about solicitations that they're watching. So when amendments come out or questions and answers are posted, they'll get notifications. But this is also kind of a quick glance guideline to help them know what's going on. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, so we're going to move into the Source tab. The Source tab is where you will spend the bulk of your time in the system. This is where you'll create your solicitation, you'll manage it while it's live, you'll do your awarding through here, and in a later training, you'll actually do evaluations through here if you've been invited to evaluate on a response. So to come in to create a bid from scratch, you'll hover over the source and do create bid. But before we jump into there, I want to talk about the other features below. The view bids section allows you to see all held bids in the system, current bids in the system, and any bids that have closed and are ready to be awarded. So there's actually three pieces under this view bid section. The held bid section houses solicitations that have been created but are in a holding tank waiting to be approved. So I'm going to switch to a different view so you can actually see it with data. So you can see here, here's the held bid section. These are all solicitations that have been created using the bid creation template, but they have not been released live yet for vendors to participate because they're waiting to be released or approved through a workflow. They can also be held here so that you can still continue to make changes or add information to the solicitation before it goes live. Within this piece, you can click on the link of the document or the solicitation, and it will take you inside to the bid details. You can also generate a bid packet if you have to send it to somebody to review. You can revise it. A revision at this point, because we're under the held bid section, a revision at this point is just adding additional information to the solicitation. So we maybe created the solicitation, saved it, and then we want to come back in and maybe add additional documents or add additional information within the document or the bid creation template. Just like any other bid that we saw in the search tab, you can copy a solicitation and you can delete a solicitation. So if there is a solicitation that you do quarterly or yearly, you may want to create it once, have it remain here in the holding tank, and then just copy from it. So you're not having to create it from scratch each time. Also within this tool, you can ready things into a workflow. Your system does have a workflow set up where Fran or Claudia will approve the solicitation before going live. So in this holding tank, there is a spot that you will need to ready the solicitation into a workflow. So once you're ready, you will select the box ready. Once your solicitation is ready to go live, you'll select ready for approval. That will kick the solicitation into the workflow so that Claudia or Fran gets a notification letting them know that there's a solicitation ready to be approved. You will have to put your password in. Your password represents your electronic signature, and your user has different roles tied to it. So by putting your password in, the system's validating that you have the rights to kick this into a workflow or to release a bid or to award a solicitation. So those things all depend upon the permission role you were given. So to release it into a workflow, make sure to put your password in and hit release bid. Once you do that, the box will no longer be there because you've kicked it into a workflow, and it's now waiting on the workflow approvers to approve. If for any reason you want to check on where this solicitation is at within the workflow, you can click inside of the solicitation, and in this section, you will be able to view the approval flow. So we can see that I'm the submitter. Mark has approved. It's waiting on Paul to come in and approve. You can also see a history of the workflow. So you can click on that, and it will tell you what's happened, if any comments have been made for that workflow. So it helps you kind of get an idea on where is your workflow at and who's it waiting on to be approved. So again, this is the held bid section, which houses solicitations after they've been created and before they've gone out to the public. The current bid section houses all the current bids in the system. Depending on how you're viewing it, if you're tied to a specific department, you will only be able to see your department solicitations. If you have other rights to view other solicitations, you'll have a list of departments so you can filter through and see what other departments have out. You can also filter to just view solicitations that you've created, and you can search for solicitations by using a title or a bid number. Right here under the current bid status, I'm seeing bids that have been approved through the workflow, and the user has come in and released the solicitation, so it's ready to go live. Within the current bid section, you're able to see a lot of detail of what's happening within the solicitation. So if you click on the link, this time it takes us into the bid history, but we also have some details that we're seeing here, which is number of offers, a report section, number of suppliers viewed, and the Q&A section. Now, the number of offers will show you if any vendors have submitted an offer. This is sealed, so you will not be able to see what that price was or their actual offer. You'll just be able to see, did they submit something? And it could have been a no bid offer. The report section shows you a lot of detailed information. It will show you how many suppliers have viewed the solicitation, some of their information, when they first viewed and when they last viewed. There's some icons up here that will show you kind of what process that vendor's in. So we're seeing a D next to this vendor, which means they've accepted all their documents. If they have only accepted a few documents, then you would see 1 of 2 or 0 of 2. In this case, we're seeing that they've accepted all documents. You also have access to see supplier invitations. So these are all the suppliers that received a notification of your solicitation, either because you specifically invited them or they matched the solicitation that you released based off of their classification codes. You can even see the ones that failed. And the nice thing about using BidSync is when a failed notification goes out, it sends that notification to what we call a bounce back list, which our support team then works from and calls to make sure that they can get the vendor to update their information so that we have valid information in the system. You have a lot of other features that you can view within here. Let me go ahead and scroll down. So you have a bid conference notification. That's basically any pre-bid conferences that you've set up. The system sends out a notification notifying the vendors of that. If there's any questions and answers posted on the solicitation, again, a notification goes out for those, so you can see which vendors received that notification. If you canceled the solicitation, a notification would go out as well, and you have access to see who received that. Addendum notifications are sent out, and again, this is where you would view who received that notification. And then there's other notifications that you can view as well. You can also create a report off this information if you wanted to hold it. Going back to the bid information link up top, it just took me back at where I was inside this report. Now, if we view this, the number of used suppliers, this is kind of your plan holders list. So this shows you the 2 vendors that are viewing their information. If the vendor holds any qualifications, you can see here which qualifications they hold. You can see when they first viewed it, when they last viewed it, and you can see if they've downloaded a bid packet. So right here, I'm not showing that these 2 vendors downloaded the bid packet.
You know, as far as the qualifications you had on their MBE, what about engineers and things like that who are pre-qualified through, say, Public Works to work on sidewalks?
Yeah, so they would show up here as well. We are holding several pre-qualification forms in your account. And so if, I believe it's Diane who's managing that, if Diane indicates that that vendor holds like an engineering or a services pre-qualification, you'd be able to identify that here as well.
Is that something that we need to submit or download or input?
No, Diane, so there's a whole separate team that will be managing those qualifications. So there's the general qualification section as well as a pre-qualification section. And there's actual individual users who will be trained on how to manage that so that they can make sure the vendor is shown as pre-qualified for those certain qualifications that are needed to respond to a solicitation.
Well, see, about once every 3 or 4 months, I get, for lack of a better word, an icon for road building, construction, and sidewalks that list everybody that's currently pre-qualified.
Yeah.
How would that be uploaded?
I will show you that during the bid creation because we have a vendor management tool that houses all the certifications, and you can actually search by vendors who are qualified under that certification. And so you can see a list there.
Okay.
Going back to the bid information we just viewed here. Now, if there's questions and answers on the solicitations, those would be posted here in the questions and answers section. You also have the ability to create a new question if you needed to. I'm just going to type question 1 so you can see how it posts. So here's what a question looks like and how it would show up. Again, you have the ability to create a question, and questions can be edited or deleted if you need to. But your response to any question would go here. So you'd come in and type your answer and hit submit. When you do that, a notification will get sent to the vendors, letting them know that a question has been answered.
And we can cut and paste the answer from the department?
Yeah, you could cut and paste just right in here into the answer section.
Text only?
Yeah, so it's text only. I haven't seen anybody do pictures. If you're doing images and things of that nature, then your answer might be, please look at addendum number 1 or addendum number 2. And then you can upload that as a change to the solicitation or as an amendment to the solicitation. Okay, so back under the source and view bids, we were looking in the current bid section, and we had actually deep dived inside one of these solicitations. So this is where you can manage all that data once the solicitation's live. But just from a viewpoint, you have access to see how much time's left, if any offers have been received. You can generate a bid packet here, and when you generate that, it will send it to your email. You can also see who the contact is on the solicitation, revise a solicitation, but at this point, a revision is an amendment to the solicitation because it's live. And then copying the solicitation. So you could copy it over into the bid creation template, which I'll show you in just a sec. And then canceling. The to be awarded bid section houses the solicitation after it's closed and to review offers. So the to be awarded bids, all of these are solicitations that have closed. Right off, I can see the title of the bid, when it ended, if I received any offers. I can generate a bid packet here, which will generate all of the documentation that I received in the solicitation that will work in our sales environment. Give it a second to load. There we go. So what comes up is the covered document, a tabulation recap, and then each vendor and their offer. So for instance, this section right here is the Family Support Center, which is the vendor. This is their bid. This is any attachments that have come over or any standard documents that were completed. And so I can see their entire bid packet right here. The second vendor is this Children's Service Society of Utah. Again, I can see everything that came over with their offer. This would be any documents that they've uploaded, as well as any standard documents that they completed. Here's another vendor, and here's another vendor. So I received a lot of solicitations. I could deselect all of these vendors and just report off of this individual vendor if I needed to. Or I could deselect that vendor and just report off of this vendor's documents if I needed to. Or you can select everything and download the entire bid packet of your vendor responses. So we received a lot of responses on this solicitation, which means there's a lot of documentation. I could then generate that into a bid packet, which would get sent to my email for me to review. So it's sending it to my email when it's ready. Besides being able to generate it using this speedy icon, you can also generate the solicitation into an Excel format to review as well. And it will send you that in an email once it's ready. You could copy the solicitation, awarding, which you won't use until after the solicitation has been evaluated. And then if you received any offers offline, you have the ability to add in an offer. So before we look straight into the bid packet, we also have the ability to look at a solicitation from here. So when a solicitation first comes in, let's see if there's any that haven't been opened yet. When a solicitation first comes in, you won't see this individual icon. You have to actually open the solicitation first. So here's one right here. See how this one doesn't have the icon? It's because this solicitation hasn't been opened. So it's closed, but nobody has come in and opened it and unlocked it. So you have to click on the link of the solicitation and put in your password. You have to have the rights to open a bid for this to work. So you'll put in your password, select open bid, and it will decrypt the bid and then unlock it for you. Once it unlocks, the solicitation will open. If you received any offers, you'd be able to see all that information there. If you needed to upload your own pre-award attachment, you'd be able to see that there. Or you'd be able to upload that here by choosing a file off your computer and selecting submit. All that you've done at this point is opened the solicitation. So here's the one we just opened. Now I have the option to generate different bid packets if I needed to of the offers that I've received. If in this case, since I didn't have vendors submit an offer electronically, I would see their names listed here. What I can do is if I received any offers offline, I can actually manually add those in by using this paper and pen icon, which allows me to add vendors that I invited originally to the bid or add in a vendor individually. Once I add the vendor in, I then have the ability to enter in their amount for them. So if you received a bid packet offline, you want to hold that bid packet in the system for evaluation purposes, for reporting purposes, for bid tabulation purposes. This is how you will do that. So you'll come in, you'll type in their amount that they gave you in their solicitation. You will leave any notes if you wanted to leave any notes for that vendor, and you can upload their entire bid packet here. So that's held in the system with everything else. If the vendor submitted an alternate offer, so they gave you the pricing for the original services that you were looking for, but they also gave you an alternate offer, you can add in an alternate offer for them as well. So this just gave me the pricing box for an alternate to put in for them, and then upload the alternate offer here and save. So that is one way that you can create in the awarding, and we'll go into this in order after we create a solicitation, but just so you can see, this is one way that you can add a bid into the system, even if the vendor did not submit it through the system directly. Okay, looking back at the source tab, we kind of touched on this view bid section. The history section houses all solicitations that have either been awarded or came directly here because they were in a paper format. So this is a history of all your solicitations. It's different than the search when you're searching through past bids, because this searches through everybody. This source and history just searches through a history of your solicitations. So you can search here through your past bids. You can view your bids here. You can view the tabulation that was posted, who you awarded to, and you can copy. So if there's a solicitation that you've done in the past, you're wanting to find it so you can just copy it and re-release it, you will search for it in the history section. Okay, so let's look at actually creating a bid, and then we'll touch on this view bid section a little bit more in order, so it might make a little bit more sense. So the create bid is what you will use to create your bid from scratch. Let's move over to your actual environment so you can see. So create bid. Here is a list of bid types that are available for you to select from. So you will identify the bid type. Quick quote usually means that it's a solicitation that is going to be out for a short period of time, so maybe a week, a few days, and so you're wanting to identify it as a quick quote. This also signals to vendors that this solicitation is not going to be out for a very long time, and because of that, they need to hurry and come in and respond. RFQ, it could mean different things to you. request for quote, is usually what I see it being used for. RFP, request for proposal or price. RFI, request for information. And then IFB is kind of like an informal or information-only bid, depending on what your terminology is. And then RF qual is request for qualification. However, whichever one of these bid types you select, the next steps in the system are exactly the same. So I'm going to just select RFP. If I was to select construction here, that would indicate that this is a construction solicitation, and I would then have the ability to create options and base pricing for my solicitation. Department is the department that the sollicitation's for. Now, my user is an admin user that I'm logged in with, so I have access to choose from all the departments in the system. However, your user may only be tied to one department. So if you're coming in here and you're not seeing multiple departments, you're just seeing one department, it's because your user only has access to release on behalf of that specific department. So for this case, procurement services. If you need access to multiple departments and you're not seeing that access level, please talk to Andre, Fran, or Claudia, because we'll need to adjust your permissions to give you that access. The budgeted amount in the system is the amount that you're looking to spend or that you've budgeted. Now, this amount is never shown to the suppliers. It's just used for internal purposes. It's also an optional field, so you don't have to fill it out. But if you'd like to track that information, you can. It does help with some reports later on in the tool, so it is good for that case scenario. There's 3 different response model types in the system. The main one is an electronic response. This is the one that I suggest using every time if you can. This is the response model type that will allow you to create the solicitation in the system. It will allow you to receive responses electronically from vendors. Vendors can download the response electronically, and you can do all your awarding. And because all that data was held in the tool, you have reporting capabilities to report off of all that data. So I always recommend to go with the electronic response just because you get the full use of the system doing it that way. Remember, I showed you a little bit how in the to-be awarding, if you received any offers offline, you can still hold them in the tool at the end with all the other offers you received. So the electronic response method, if you're allowing, the vendor could still download a bid packet and submit it to you offline, and then you could enter that in for them after the solicitation has closed. So you still have that capability with the electronic response model. The paper response model is for solicitations where you're just going to create the solicitation electronically, so maybe attach the bid packet. The vendors, all that they can do once it's live is download the bid packet, and then once they download it, they're going to have to turn it in offline. That means that you can't really have access to all that information while the solicitation's live because they basically just came in and downloaded it, and they're going to submit their offer offline to you.
All right, by using this response, because we might have some vendors who are not computer literate, or they would still rather submit a paper response, even though they're notified by you, they download the bid and they fill out the paperwork and then they just drop it off.
Yeah.
Is that what that allows for?
This does allow for it. The electronic response would also allow for it as well. So that the electronic response can kind of give the vendor a choice to do it electronically or download a bid packet and turn it into you offline. The paper go ahead.
We're responsible for uploading it.
Correct.
Okay.
The paper response only allows for them to turn it in offline. And then you can't upload their response to their entire bid packet to the system in a tabulation form because all that data wasn't initially created or held electronically.
Okay.
The paper response with an electronic tabulation is similar to the paper response method. However, after the solicitation closes, you do have the ability to upload a tabulation electronically. But again, you lose out on a lot of reporting and the ease and functionality of doing a solicitation electronically. So this is the first step of the bid creation. Is there any questions on this first step?
So just to confirm, with electronic response, the vendor can still give us their proposal on paper.
Yes, that's correct. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so once you've completed this first page of the bid creation, you'll select next page. And this takes you into the last step in creating a solicitation. So up here, the bid characteristics, I can see what I've created so far, what I've selected so far. But then I need to start putting in the bid details. So the bid duration is the date and time that the bid will be closing. So you'll just select the calendar icon, select the date that the solicitation is closing and the time. What this does is it automatically stops anybody from participating in the bid on this date and this time. So no vendors can submit an offer, not even electronically after this bid duration. The system will automatically shut off, so they don't even have access to submit a response. The bid question and answer duration, this is where you will indicate if you want an expiration on the questions and answers period. So remember, vendors can submit questions electronically through the system. If you want to put a time limit on when they can do that, you'll need to put in a date and a time. And this will actually stop the vendor from being able to submit questions. You yourself could still answer and respond to questions. However, the vendor just can't submit a question if you've set this up. The pre-bid conference section is where you'll add your pre-bid conference information. So if you have an on-site conference or at a location, this is where you will indicate that. The online conference is basically a way for you to set up a chat. So think of like an IM where you can type a question and somebody can respond with the answer. That is how this online conference works. This way, vendors are able to just stay at their computer, submit questions to you, you respond to the question. At the end, you're able to generate a tabulation report or a pre-bid conference report or a transaction and add that to the solicitation for anybody who wasn't able to attend to see what questions were, what the answers were. You can even indicate who attended. So this is nice if you're just kind of wanting to stay in the office, but maybe open up a Q&A period. The at-the location is for those on-site pre-bid conferences. So you'll list the address.
I had a question.
Yeah.
What if at this point we only wanted to communicate with the vendors that attended the pre-bid conference? If, say, for instance, this was a mandatory pre-bid conference and we did not want to communicate with those that didn't attend?
Yeah, so in that case, you can't continue to do communication through here just with those vendors that attended. But it gives you a good idea on who actually attended, so you can keep a list of those that attended because it was mandatory. And then you can do an amendment or addendum stating this is who's attended the pre-bid conference. This is who we will be accepting offers from. If we've missed your name, then please contact us and let us know. So it's more of a way that you can send a notification or an amendment, put an amendment into the solicitation, letting vendors know who you marked as being there for that mandatory pre-bid. But it's not really a messaging tool to have conversations with specific vendors. This is basically a pre-bid conference for anybody who would like to attend. If the bid's public, could attend. If it was a private solicitation, only those that have been invited could attend. But in this case, my solicitation, or my example is more of a public solicitation. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
In this case, like pre-qualifications, Robert, the difference between our public and private is it is pre-qualified with only the 6 or 8 people, then we would put out a private one just to those 6 or 8 people, as opposed to wanting to qualify and inviting everyone to submit. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so going back to my pre-bid conference, I'm indicating a address, a date of the pre-bid conference, a time of the pre-bid conference, and then I'm indicating whether it's optional or mandatory. NA functions the same way as optional. If you wanted to put an NA, you could, but usually optional or mandatory are the two most used. So in this case, if it's mandatory attendance, I'm letting the vendors know that this is mandatory. And the vendors on their side will actually have the ability to indicate whether they're coming or not. So they can basically sign up and say, yes, I'm coming. Within our bid template, though, we have the ability to edit it or delete it if we needed to. If there's multiple pre-bid conferences on different days, then you can still indicate that here. So you can list the different dates and times of the pre-bid conference and whether it's optional or mandatory. So you can see here, I now have 2 pre-bid conferences. One's happening on the 21st and one's happening on the 22nd. The contract duration section is optional. You don't need to fill it out. However, if you'd like to indicate the contract information, you can do so here. So whether it's a one-time purchase, if there's going to be renewals, how long prices need to be good for if you want to host that information or make that information public or provide the knowledge to the vendors. The budget amount, remember, came over from our first page where we put in an amount that we're looking to budget for the project. This amount is never shown to the suppliers. However, there's another field called estimated amount, and this amount is shown to the supplier. So if you're wanting to indicate to the supplier how much you're looking to spend, this one is shown to the suppliers. Otherwise, leave it blank. The bid bond section is mostly used for maybe construction solicitations. So if the vendor needs a bid bond, you would indicate that they need a bid bond and like the percent of the bid bond that it needs to be. If there's no bid bond, then you'll just leave it at don't allow and move on. But there is the option to have the vendors know that there is a bid bond and what their security needs to be. The bid number is the bid numbering in the system. And right now, the numbering is free-formed. Andre, remind me, are you getting that number from another system? Are the users aware of how to put in that bid number or where to get the information?
I think if my memory serves me right, we're going to continue to maintain our own numbers, right? Or is ours going to be system generated?
I don't think we set up a system generated because I think you were going to continue to use the numbering system that you're using. But we can auto-generate it if you'd like.
Well, team, what Shannon has told us in the past, and I don't want this to become too much of a design session, but we can have a system-generated number every time we go into the system and say new, it'll generate the next available number. If you don't want to do the solicitation log, we'll know what day we started it, what department it's in, we'll know who's doing it, okay? If you want to do the solicitation log, we can. Let's keep moving on. Think about it, and it's something we can set up if you want. If you don't mind doing the solicitation log, we can.
Mm-hmm. So right now it's a free form number. So wherever you're gathering your solicitation number now, you would still get that number, and then you would input that number into the system. And I'm just putting in a random bid number so you can see how you can type into it. If you decide down the road you want to make that an auto-generated number, that can definitely be changed. The bid title is the title of the solicitation. So if I'm looking for janitorial services or lawn care services, or maybe I'm looking for paper products, I'm looking for new computers, whatever it might be that you need within the city of Tallahassee, or whatever your solicitation is for, you're going to indicate that title. The bid comment section is a way for you to list information to the vendor that you want them to be aware of up front. So this is going to be a bid description if you want to give them that information, maybe contact information, or maybe it's going to say, please see bid documents for the scope of work. So whatever you want the vendor to be aware of up front, this is where you're going to type that information. So this is a section they're going to see without having to dig inside any documents. Now, the additional or the add offer field, this is a way that you can add some additional information to your line item. So for instance, if you're wanting to gather some data from the vendor, so let's say that my solicitation I did was janitorial services, but I want to know the brand of the product they're giving me. I maybe want to know their license number, and I maybe want to know their location. Those are some additional fields that I can add and attach to a line item when I create them. So usually you think that you create a line item first, but if there's some additional features you're wanting to have held on a line item level, then you'll have to create your add offer fields first. So my examples again are a brand, a license number, and a location. Just because I've added them doesn't mean I need to tie them to a line item. So now we're looking at how to create a line item, and I have some different options. I can add a line item in individually, which is where it's just a single line item. So what I'm looking for, the quantity, the delivery location, a description about the line item, and what type of pricing I'm looking to gather. I can do an array. An array is more like a column where you can add items down below and items up above. The thing with an array is it's only a quantity of one. And I've seen it used for purchasing of shirts. So you'll have small, medium, large down below, and then the different colors. So like red shirt, blue shirt, green shirt, and then the vendor's coming in and giving you pricing for a quantity of one. The array line item is not used very often because it is that quantity of one, and it doesn't automatically calculate a total price for you, so you'd have to do that on your own. The add lot is a way for you to create sections and then tie line items together. So for instance, with my janitorial services, I may be looking for cleaning supplies. So cleaning supplies would be my lot with all the different supplies I'm looking for. I may be looking for trash bags and different trash bag items. I may be looking for carpet cleaning and then the different areas that need to be cleaned in the building. So it's a way to kind of combine your line items into sections together, so groupings. And then you can import. So if you have a bunch of line items that you're looking to import into the system, if you click on this help icon, it will give you directions on how to do that, as well as a format that you need to have it in. So this is going to be your different columns. So you'll need the lot name, the title, description, quantity, unit, shipping location, product code, pricing type, and option. And then down below, it tells you if those are required or not required sections. So you'll format your Excel document like this. You'll save it as a, I think it's a CSV file. Yep, right here, CSV file. and then you can come in and choose the file off your computer and upload it. So that will automatically upload your line items to the tool instead of having to create them one by one individually. So during our testing period, this will be a feature that you'll want to test out just to make sure that you can get it to work and you're understanding that functionality. But again, this little help icon will walk you through that process. For the purpose of our training, I'm just going to add a line item. And when I add an item, it takes me to another box where I'm creating information for the line item level. So I'm doing janitorial services. So for this, I wanted to purchase, we'll just say toilet cleaner. The product code is a code that you maybe classify this item under internally. You don't have to put in a product code, it's optional. And then you have different pricing types. So you can indicate whether you're looking for a price from the vendor, a negative price, a percentage, or no price. So maybe you're just looking to get information, you're doing an IFB, and so you're just looking for information only, so you do no price because you're not wanting the vendor to submit you pricing, you're wanting them to submit you information about the solicitation. And then the unit of measure, so I'm wanting maybe a case. And then you have the option to select from a delivery location. The locations in your account right now are no location specified or the city hall. You can just select no location specified with the quantity, so I'm wanting 3 cases of that. But let's say that you need to add a separate location for toilet cleaner to be sent to as well, then you would just click here to add in a separate. If the location that you're needing is not on the list, you can add in your own location on a bid by bid basis. So just put city building with the address. And I'm just typing in my address information here and saving it. So this location I was able to add in on my solicitation. It does not add it for the entire account. So now I can select from it and add in my quantities. So you can choose multiple delivery locations with different quantities. You can edit, view, or delete here. Now, when you're in the delivery location, if you want to be able to see the exact address, you can either click on the title and it will show you the address here. This description box is a description for the line item. So information you want the vendor to know about the line item. And this maybe will be, again, another description just saying, please read the bid documents, the SOWs in there. If you look down below, you can see here's my additional offers fields that I've created. For this item, I just want to know the brand that they're going to be providing me for the toilet cleaner. And so I'm only going to select brand. If I want to create multiple line items, I'll just select next item and I can create my next item here. So let's do kitchen cleaner. I do want a price for this. I want to know by case, and my quantity or my locations have still come over from the last item, but I can remove them if there's certain locations that I'm not needing and do different quantities. So as you can see, if you spell words wrong, it does indicate that so that you can cut or remove it and fix it. I have my additional offer fields here again, so I'm not wanting to know those 2 additional offer fields, maybe just brand, or you don't have to select any. Maybe that's part of the information that the vendor's providing you in the solicitation. You can continue to move forward and create new items. You can go back to fix previous items, or you can select done. When you select done, your line item will then display below here in the line item section. You can edit that information. So I'm looking here and I'm seeing I selected no price, but I actually wanted it to be a price. So I can come in and edit and change that to a price and then hit done so that it will fix it. So now I'm showing they're both prices. I can delete an item if I no longer need it. I do have the ability to reorder line items if I needed to. So I could select an item and move it up and hit save. So I can change the order of the line items are showing. I can continue to add in line items if I needed to, or I can add a line item here. So you have all these different options in creating your line items. The next part of the solicitation is identifying the bid documents. Now, these bid documents are the solicitations, or these are the documents that are standard documents within the account that will become part of your bid packet. So you're not seeing all your standard forms here right now. Those eventually will come in. But for the purpose of the training, if you're needing to view that document, you can click on the title and the document will pull up. This document has a lot of coding in it. See if I can get it to come up. So this document has coding in it because I've set it up to be a document that the vendor can respond to electronically. But when you're viewing it, you can come in and view the form here. If you need that document, you'll select it. So if you need attachment A, representation and certifications form, you'll select it, and that will make that document part of your bid packet. You can also upload any documentation that you need. So you'll most likely be uploading bid-specific documents here. Bid-specific documents are documents that the vendor needs to know about the bid itself. So it's not standard forms like terms and conditions that can be on any solicitation. It's usually the scope of work, picture files, images of what you're looking for, maybe a cover page if you wanted to put a cover page in here. Now, when you are uploading your own attachment, you have two choices. You can just upload an attachment from your desktop. And then when you upload that, it will just take that form and save it to the solicitation. So I can see here's the form that I just uploaded. I can view that and I can delete it. You also have the option to upload a form to be converted to a web form. And that means that you're wanting the vendor to be able to type directly in the form. So let's use another one of your, use your same document. So in this case, I want the vendor to be able to have fields to type directly in the form. And I'll show you that when we look at the vendor perspective. But the convert to web form means the web form is going to be a form the vendor can fill out electronically. Whereas this other form, I didn't select that. So that means that if there's information the vendor needs to fill out, they're going to have to download the document, fill it out, and then upload it as an attachment to their bid. If I submit convert to web form, the vendor can fill the form out electronically and it will automatically come over with their offer. So I'm going to choose my file, convert to web form, and leave some instructions. And this will be sent over to the support representative that will convert this document for you. So just put a little note, or please make certain fields required, whatever you want to indicate. And then when you close it or upload your file, if you wanted to upload another file, so we need to click upload. Once you do that, it will be sent over when you hit done. It will be sent over to the support representative to take care of that form. Usually it's about a 24-hour period to have those documents converted. So if you have a document that's a quick quote that you're looking to get out fast and you maybe didn't give yourself enough time to create it in advance to have a web form, then you'll just want to upload the document if you cannot wait that 24-hour period. Otherwise, start creating your solicitation early, then you can have your document converted to a web format will be ready by the time you're ready to release your solicitation. So you'll hit done. In this case, I'm just going to cancel because I don't want to send it over. So again, you'll have documents that are already held on the bid creation template. Those are standard documents that Claudia and Fran and Andre have already added into the tool. But if there's any additional documents that you're needing to add that are not held in the tool, you will upload those. Any document that's selected is going to become part of the bid packet, and any document I've uploaded becomes part of the bid packet. So this document has not been selected. It will not become part of the bid packet. The select classifications is very important because this is how you identify what type of work or services or products you're needing. And this also helps to notify vendors within the BidSync database of the solicitation being out if it matches what they do. So in this case, if you do not know the NIGP code, you can type in a keyword. And it will bring up the NIGP codes below. You can kind of deep dive into those a little bit to see what it's for, and it looks like this one is the one that I need. So I'm going to select that one and hit Add Selected. That will add it over into my classification box. I could do another search for cleaning supply, and then I could read through the cleaning supplies and pick the one that meets my needs. So I'm just going to add one so you can see how I can add it over, and then close. So right now I have 2 classifications on my system, or on my solicitation. What that means is that any vendor in the system that matches one of these classification codes in the area that you're looking for, if it's a public bid, they would be notified of the solicitation so they can come in and see if they can participate. You can remove all classifications or you can delete individual ones here. You can continue to add classifications if you'd like. The vendor section defines who your audience is going to be. Is this a public bid, meaning anybody can participate? Is it a private solicitation, meaning you have to be pre-qualified to participate? And so in that case, we're going to indicate that it's private and just invite those that are pre-qualified. Is it regional? So we're looking for people within 30 miles of a specific zip code or 100 miles of a specific zip code. So you can indicate that if it's regional. In my case, I'm going to do public, and then I'm going to invite vendors. So the invite vendors is a way for me to specifically invite vendors regardless of their classification codes, because I want them to receive a notification of the solicitation and come in and participate. The suggested vendors, if you select it, it will show you all the vendors that will be notified based on your area and the classification codes you've selected. To invite a vendor, you'll select Invite Vendors. Oh, shoot, logged me out. Let's go back in. So you'll select Invite Vendors, and then what will happen is it will take you to this page here. And this page is where you can search for those vendors. So let me show you a different view in the sales environment so I can show you one with classifications, because I think we have some built out in here. And then this will answer the question about what if you're wanting to only invite those that are pre-qualified. This is a way you can do that. So it will take you here to search for your vendor. When you're searching for your vendor, you can type in the vendor's name. So I could type in their name. I could type in a keyword. I could type in the contact person. I could indicate whether it's one of my preferred vendors, so a vendor that was brought over into the system when it was implemented. I could search for classification codes, and I can also search for qualifications. So if I have a vendor that needed to be pre-qualified for a specific qualification, in this case, this is just general. It just says pre-qual because we're in a sales environment, but your qualifications would be more specific. So like general services, electrical, utilities, or whatever all your different pre-qualifications are, they would be listed here, and so that's what you'd be viewing instead of these qualifications here. So if I was wanting to view all vendors that had a pre-qual, I would select that box and hit search. If there was any results, it would come up below. So right now I only have 2 vendors in the system. In the case of inviting vendors, there would be a box next to their name to select from, and then you could, at the bottom, add them to your solicitation. So for those of you doing solicitations that require a pre-qualification, you'll want to search for that qualification, hit search, bring up the vendors, and then to the left, if you're in the bid creation, you'll be able to select the radio dial to add them over, like this. If you want to do different search, you can search for a different series of vendors. You can click on the vendor's name and see the vendor details. So if you need to know more about the vendor, you'll select their name. Here's all their information, contact information that you can review before you select them. Now, if there's a vendor that you're needing that is not in the system, you can't find them, but you want to still invite them, you have the ability to do that by using this quick add vendor. This basically allows you to create a placeholder account for that vendor so you can invite them to the solicitation. So you'd go ahead and fill out the information, mark them as a preferred vendor because it's somebody that you want to work with, select next, and then do the next page and save. What that will do is that will add the vendor to the list so you can then select them and add them over into your invited vendors. So again, if you're not finding a vendor in the system after using the search tool, you can create a quick add vendor, and that's a vendor that's not registered in the system, but you still want to notify them of this bid opportunity. Once you've added all your vendors in, you'll select Return to Editing. It will take you back to where your vendors are at. Here you can remove a vendor. You can remove all vendors. So if you need to delete any, you could do it that way. The last part of the bid creation page is the contact information. So I'm the primary contact because I created the solicitation. But if you needed to add in an additional contact, you could do that. You would search for the name in the system or by department, search the user you're needing, and that user would then become a contact on the bid. You could even make them the primary contact if you needed to. The below selected is going to show the contact information visible to the vendor. So if you're wanting to not show specific information, go ahead and deselect the box. Or maybe you're wanting to receive all questions electronically. So you're going to go ahead and just deselect all. Once you've completed this bid creation template, the last step is hitting Save Bid. But before I do that, is there any questions on this bid creation page? Or any comments, Andre, Fran, or Claudia, you want to make?
No.
Okay, so I'm not going to save this because I'm in your live account, so I'm just going to cancel. And we'll move over to the sales environment. But once you save the solicitation, it is going to come to your held bid section. So this is where that solicitation will move to. So it does not automatically go live. It goes directly to your holding tank. And this is where you can have it held here so that you can go in and review it. So if you click on the title, again, we just created this bid so we can review it, see everything that we've added, see the documents we've added, make sure everything looks okay. If you want to see how that bid looks to the vendor, you can select Vendor View of Bid. And this is how the vendor will see it. So when a vendor logs in, this is what they're seeing. They can see the bid details. They can see the documents. They could generate that into an offer packet if they needed to. They can see the line items on the bid. This is where they would post questions, and if they wanted to place an ad for construction purposes, they could place an ad here saying that they're a prime or a sub. So maybe I'm a sub seeking a prime, I can do this work, here's my information, please call me if you need this work done for you. So this is kind of where they can talk to each other. And then once they've completed all the documents, they can place an offer or place a no bid. So this just kind of gives you a good idea of what that vendor view looks like, and it was just right up here up top. If everything looks good on the solicitation and you don't need to make any revisions or changes, then you can go ahead and ready it into a workflow. So you'll select the box, you'll ready for approval, you will put your password in, and you can ready the bid. If you need one more look at it, you can look here or you can revise here, and then you'll ready the bid. Once you've readied the bid, it will move into the approval pending status. Again, if you want to review where it's at within the workflow, you'll click on the title. And down here, you can see where it's at in the approval flow. So I can see it's waiting on Tanya to approve. Once Tanya approves, you will get an email notification letting you know that your solicitation has been approved and it's ready to be released. At that point, a box will show up here that looks exactly like this box, but it will show up under the release section. That means that you have been approved to release your bid. And you will select release, you will check the box, but it will be on this side, and you'll select release bid, and it will be the exact same thing. When you select release bid, you will have a spot to put in your password and hit submit. At that point, your bid will go live. So if you're not ready to release it, do not check the release box and hit release bid. You will not have the release box show up until your solicitation has been approved. So if you're not seeing a box here, it's because your solicitation hasn't been approved yet in the workflow. Let's see if there's any in this system that are ready for approval, just so you can see the difference. So see right here how this has a box and it says ready. It's because it's been approved in the workflow and it's now ready to be released. So you'll select the box, you'll come to release bid. If there are any problems with the bid, so if the expiration date's past due or the questions and answers are past due, you will get an error notice letting you know you need to fix those things. You can come in and revise. Then once you're ready to go, you'll put your password in and hit release bid. And that is what will move your bid from this held bid status to the current bid status. What that means is the bid has now gone live. Vendors will receive a notification letting them know about the solicitation, and they can start coming in and participating. So is there any questions on how to move your bid from a held bid status by kicking it into a workflow and releasing it before we move on to a vendor view of a current bid?
No.
No? Okay. So I'm going to log out as an agency, because now that your solicitation is live and it's being held here, if you remember, you have a lot of great data that you can view inside this form. So you can see all of this section, any offers that you've received, all that great reporting information, how many suppliers have viewed, and if any questions have been posted. But what I want to show you now is what it looks like to a vendor. So once it's in this current bid section, the vendors now have access to it. So I'm just going to log in as a vendor. So let me go ahead and see if I can do a vendor view for us. Oops. Try again. There we go. Okay, so we're seeing a vendor view. This isn't something that you will ever have to deal with. There is a support department that manages and helps all the vendors in the system. So if a vendor is looking to place an offer on any of your solicitations, they can call support. Support can help walk them through how to electronically place an offer. Support will not answer any questions about the solicitation. They will recommend the vendor post a question to you. They're just there to guide them through the electronic process. So this isn't something that you need to deal with. However, I thought it might be helpful for you to see. So once your solicitation goes live, the vendor will get an email notification. And if they've been specifically invited, it will show up under their My Bid section or Invited Bid section. They can also add things to their My Bid section for easy access on their dashboard. So these are two that I've added to the page for us. So the vendor will come in and they'll click on the title of the bid. It will take them into the bid details. So this kind of looks like the vendor view you were seeing. They could download a bid packet here. They can view the details of the bid. So if you remember, you put in a time, your contact information, the bid comments, a description. So everything that you added, they can see here. Any documents that were attached to the bid, they can see here. They could even select the form from here and put it into a zip file if they needed to, or they can download it. What you're seeing here is the vendor has gone through and started accepting the solicitation or viewing a solicitation. They have not viewed and accepted this form yet, request for information, which means they cannot place an offer. So they're not seeing a place offer anywhere because they haven't taken care of all of the documents required. So once the vendor takes care of that document, they will then be able to place an offer on the solicitation. If they want to view the line items, they could come here and select the line item and get the details that you've put in about the line item. If they have a question, this is where they will submit their question. So if you remember, I typed this in earlier with you, question 1, answer 1. If the questions and answers period is still open, this is where the vendor would be able to submit a question, but the deadline has lapsed. So I don't have anywhere to post a question, but you as an agency could still submit a question there. So going back to my home page as a vendor, under bid opportunities, they have a second bid that they could come in and view. It's the same thing. So it's all the details, the documents, the line items, and the questions and answers. When they submit a question, you will get an email notification letting them know that a question has been, letting you know that a question has been submitted. At that point, you can log into BidSync, and then there'll be a direct link on your home page to click on the link that will direct you straight to where to answer the question. Or you could find the bid how we did it before and click into the details and answer the question there. But this is the vendor view. So once the vendor has completed everything, they've submitted their offer, then your solicitation will no longer show up under that current bid section. See if we can get in. So I'm logging in back as an agency. You just saw the vendor view. If a vendor had asked a question, a direct link kind of like this would show up under the question and answer section. You could click on it and it would direct you straight to the question. Or you can come back to source, view bids, current bids, and you could enter inside of the solicitation, come to questions and answers, view the question that was submitted and answer the question. Or you could submit your own question. So if you received a question offline and you want to add that in to be held with all the other questions, this is where you would do that. You would submit the question and then write the answer. So once the bid closes, it will no longer be in this current bid section. So if you're looking for a solicitation, it's not in the current bid section, it most likely has closed and now moved to the to be awarded bid section, where it will remain until you've evaluated it and are ready to award. Remember, when you first come in, you have to unlock the solicitation by clicking on the link, putting in your password to decrypt it. Once you decrypt it, you will have access to all of the offers that you've received, but you have to put your password in before you get that. So right here, I'm showing, here's all the offers that I've received. With this solicitation, it looks like the vendor wasn't to submit pricing, but instead submit information. And so here's the documents. If I click on it and look at the file, here's the documents that the vendor submitted me here. And then some vendors attached their own forms that I can view here. So this is one way to view a solicitation, is by opening it through the link and looking at documents or pricing. There's also the option that I showed you earlier of clicking on this packet and then using the packet to generate it into a document for me to then review. So you kind of have two different options on this page on how to review that data. So again, selecting what you want to generate on and generating that in either a PDF or Excel. Or sorry, this one just does PDF. If you want Excel, then you'll need to select the Excel icon here. If you needed to add in any offers, this is where you would use that add bid. So if you had some vendors submit their offers offline, if they weren't on this list, so this is a vendor that I added when I created the bid. If they weren't on the list, you're going to have to add a vendor by searching through the vendor tool. So by search this and then adding the vendor. So this is showing all the vendors I invited, but a vendor that I didn't invite submitted an offer. So I would search for them, select that vendor, and then add the vendor. Oops. Still loading, so it's not letting me add. So add the vendor over. When you add them, you can go to return to editing, and it will take you back to this page. So here they are right here, where I can then start entering their price. In this case, it wasn't a pricing solicitation, so I would just upload any information they provided me. So that was that add bid. Another training, we will cover how to do an evaluation. So before you ever award, you're normally going to go through an evaluation process, and that will be a separate training. But after the evaluation has been completed and you're then ready to award, this award icon will take you through the awarding process. So you'll select award. This will come in and show all the offers that you've received. If you wanted to send out an award notification, you could do that here. So you can notify all bidders, notify only the winning bidder, or do not send a notification. If you wanted to create your own notification, you'll upload an attachment here. And if this is a bid that we want sent over to a contract, then we'll select the add bid award to the contract tool or none. And then put your password in and hit award bid. Right now, we've indicated that we wanted to award to Hughes Supply because in here, we had them selected as awarded. So right here where it says awarded, whoever you select here, and you could do multiple people and close that, that will show up in your award over here. So after your evaluation, you'll need to come into this section, select the vendor you're looking to award to, and then select award. Review the individuals that you've awarded to. Decide if you want to send out a notification, put in your password, and then award the bid. That will then, if you've sent out a notification, it will then send out a notification to the vendors, letting them know that they've been awarded, and at that time you can contact them offline if you needed to as well. If for whatever reason you need to send out a pre-award notification first, you can do that by clicking inside of the solicitation and uploading a pre-award notification here from a file off your computer. So we've covered a lot of information under the source tab, how to create a solicitation, the different views you have on the solicitation from the held bids to the current bids, the awarded bids. We talked a little bit about the history. So after you've awarded, or if you've done a paper solicitation, all your solicitations will move here to the history. Is there any questions on creating a bid, the views of a bid, and the history of a bid? Okay. It's a lot of information that we covered. So I will provide this training back to you so that as you're testing, you can review it. But we'll jump over to the report section right now. So the reporting section is held under Tools and Reports. And Reports is where you can view from standard reports, or you can create your own ad hoc reports. Right here, we're seeing that there's a bunch of reports in progress. So if you remembered, I tried to generate a bunch of documents or tabulations and have those sent to my email. Those are also documented here. So you would get an email of it, but under this main reports tool, so Tools and Reports, I have access to see everything that I've also generated. So this is also where those generated reports would be held. And you can click on them here and view those reports. So here's what a solicitation looks like after I've generated it through the tool. It would have all the bid detail information. You also have standard reports here for awarded bids, current bids, bid savings, qualifications met on awarded bids. You get reports. So under the ad hoc reporting tool, the one that you'll want to be keeping an eye on is this bids template section. This will be blank until you start creating your own templates. So everything here is a template that's already been created for me to use. But to create your own template, you'll select Create Report. You'll give it a name. So maybe this is Qualification Report, or Bid Report, whatever you want to title it, your bid description. And then you're going to select the data you do not want. So everything's already selected for you. If it has a green check mark, that means it's going to be included in your report. So you have your bid data, you have your vendor data, and you have your line item data. So if I don't need to know the budgeted amount, I don't need to know the bid contact phone, the bid contact fax, the bid contact email. I don't need to know who got notified, or the classification codes, or the status, or the pre-bid conference. I'm going to just go ahead and deselect everything I don't need on my report. So that all that I have remaining is what I want, the data elements that will be in my report. For my vendors, which vendor data do you want to capture? So I want their name, I maybe want their phone number, but I don't need their fax, I don't need their supplier codes, I don't need their FEIN number, or invited or has offer. So I'm just wanting to capture kind of their basic information, and you can do the same on the line item level. So I want to know the item number, the item name, the item status, the supplier name, total price, quantity, unit price, supplier award status. Maybe I don't want to know pricing, units, or additional offer fields. So I've just, yeah, go ahead.
Could you generate a report at the end of the year that would give you the dollar value of all the bids that you did from a start to end date?
So what you would have to do is, you can do a start to end date, but you'd have to make sure your pricing units are in here so that you're capturing the price or the total award amount. So you just have to make sure that that data has been selected in your report. And then once you submit your report, it basically just creates a template. Let's see if we can find, it creates the template, and then in the template is where you're adjusting your dates. So you're saying, show me all the bids that from this start to this end. So this is where you're selecting your time period or your calendar dates to search for all that data. And then you're determining what's it going to be grouped by. So do you want to group by bid number? Do you want to group by bid title? All that has an offer, all that attended a conference. So you just want to make sure that everything's being selected that you're needing to report off of. And then you have these different options to search your HTML, your Excel, Excel flat, and CSV or XML within that date range. But it's not necessarily going to automatically calculate it all for you. So for instance, if you're looking at award pricing, so for instance, this report right here gives me cost, but you see that at the end, it's not totaling all the cost for me because it's not in Excel format. So you'd probably have to take all the cost columns and calculate it yourself based off of what you're reporting off of. So in this case, I just reported off of solicitation, and I wanted the offer total for the solicitation. So going back to the tools and reports section, the bid template is where you're going to get most of your data for the solicitation. The user template is where you can get data off of your user, and the contract template is where you can do reports or data off of your contracts. So you'll want to play around with this piece to see if you can create the different reports that you're needing to maybe capture that cost. Underneath the report section, there's also an awards bids report where you can come and award off of this date range. So here's where you can do just awarded bids and for the different departments, and then create that information in Excel. I don't know if the training site will let me report off of it, but we can check. Oh, didn't bring me anything, but here's where you could see your total budget award, your savings based on your budgeted amount. So this report might be something that you might want to use instead as that awarded bids if you're looking to report off of your award amount. So any questions on that tools and reports section? Okay. So during your testing period, you're each going to be able to access the training site, and it's training.bidsync.com. And Andre, I provided you with all their login information, correct? Or are you still needing that?
So far, just Fran, Claudia, and I. But if it's
okay.
the same, then we can go ahead and start with Robert and Keith.
Okay. I thought I created an email. I'll look back and see if I can get it. But for all of you that have attended this training, I will provide your login information to Andre so that you can access the training environment. So you'll come into training.bidsync.com. You'll type in your username, which is going to be your email address, and then the password that will be available in the information I'm providing to Andre. Once you log in, you'll then have access into the system that looks similar to your production account. So you can click on these different tabs, kind of play around with everything, see what it does. You're not hurting anything. It's not affecting your production account because you're in training. What you will want to be practicing is going to source, creating a bid, viewing your bid, in held, current, and the to be awarded bid section. When you create your bid and you move it to held, you'll want to ready it into a workflow so that Fran or Claudia can approve it. And then you'll want to release it into the production environment. I will also provide you some vendor login information so that you can log in as a vendor and participate in your solicitation as a vendor so that you can get a response back. If you've created a solicitation and you don't have time, Andre, there's no time to go in and create a bid or you're having problems, let me know and then I can quickly go in as a vendor and respond to them so that you can then kind of see the current bid status, how that works, and then the to be awarded status, how that works. You'll also want to look at the tools and reports and play around with the different reporting options here and in the ad hoc reports. So you'll have access to kind of get in there, play around, and do whatever you need to do in training. Another thing that you have access to is the support portal. And I'll provide this URL to Andre as well. But this support portal is a great place to go in to gain access to the user guides. You will have to create a separate login. So you'll click on sign in, sign up. You'll create your information so that you can create your login. And then once you create your login, you'll be able to log into the tool. Once you log into the tool, you then have access to all the great resources. And so, for instance, if you want to know how to create a solicitation, you could just type in the word create solicitation or create bid, and different user manuals would come up for you to view. So create a bid. This would walk me through the creation process that I just took you through today. So this is in more of like a Word format, walking you step by step through it. If you wanted to know how to award a solicitation, just type in a keyword and see what you can find. How do I award a bid? So this will walk you through on how to award a bid. So again, this is going to be a great resource for you, especially after we've covered a lot of information. This and the recording will be a good tool for you to review if you need help. Make sure that you access that training environment, because the training environment is going to let you play around with what you've learned today without affecting production. So it's where you're going to kind of get all your kinks out. Now, if you're noticing that maybe you don't have permissions to do certain things that you need to do, please let Andre, Claudia, or Fran know, and then we can talk about adjusting your permissions if we need to do so. So is there any questions? Okay, as you're working and playing around within the site, if you do have questions, please go to Andre, Fran, or Claudia. They can take note of your question, and then they can send the question to me, and I'll get it answered for you. Does that work, Andre?
That works.
Okay. So if there are not any other questions, then we can go ahead and end a few minutes early. And Andre, I will get you login information by the end of today with the URL information so that your users can get access into the system and start testing. Now, I believe that in our project plan, we've given you about a week to do your testing with. So please make time to go in there and to test the system so that once you're live, you're not trying to figure out how it works.
All right. The three people that we'd like to get access for right now is Keith Milton,
Okay.
Robert Threewitz, and Ron Mayo, and we'll give him his ID and password once he's able to watch the recording.
Okay, great. Yep, and I will get that over to you today.
Okay, thank you. And then the follow-up question or comment was with respect to testing. Based upon helping other agencies implement and go live, do you have a recommended test plan or an approach, any particular scripts, or do we just sort of work on our own?
Yeah, so you can go in there and free play, but then I'll provide you a checklist of things that you need to make sure your users have done. And it will be things like create a solicitation, make a revision, add an addendum. It will just be little things like that for each scenario, just to kind of give them a guideline if they would like one. But they're able to go in and free play if they'd like to as well.
We've had some free play, and I do appreciate any checklists that can help us be sure we've thought of everything.
Okay. Yep, and I'll get those over to you as well.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions before we dismiss?
Are you going to be doing the 1 o'clock also?